They say heartbreak is like a car crash, you never see it coming, but the wreckage leaves you bleeding long after the sirens fade. I didn't think I'd survive mine, let alone find myself falling for the one person who seemed determined to rebuild me piece by piece. Irony, I've learned, has a cruel sense of humor. I was 22 when I swore I would never love again. Chicago winters bite deeper when you're walking home alone after another failed date, your breath hanging like smoke in the cold. My last relationship had left me gutted, 3 years wasted on a man who taught me that promises mean nothing if someone doesn't have the backbone to keep them. I still remember the way my hands shook the night he told me he had found someone else, as if I had been nothing but a training ground for his better future. So I built walls. Thick, unyielding walls. My friends teased me for it, saying I treated relationships like horror movies. Peek through your fingers, scream when it gets too real, then slam the door shut. And maybe they were right. Maybe it was easier to laugh about my brokenness than to admit I couldn't stand the idea of being vulnerable again. Then he walked into my life. Ethan was not supposed to matter. He was loud in a way that irritated me, always making stupid jokes at the coffee shop where we first met. The kind of guy who flirted with the barista just to see her roll her eyes, who hummed off-key to whatever pop song played on the radio. The first time he noticed me sitting alone by the window, hunched over my notebook, he grinned like we were already old friends. "Hey, loner, you planning on solving the world's problems in that journal of yours?" I should have ignored him. I wanted to. But there was something disarming in his tone, like he wasn't mocking me but inviting me to laugh at myself. Against my better judgment, I smirked back. "Something like that," I said. And just like that, a door I thought had been sealed shut cracked open, if only a little. At first, I told myself it was nothing, a distraction, a harmless friendship. But Ethan had this way of showing up when I least expected him. One night, I was sitting on the steps outside my apartment after a particularly rough day, cigarette in hand, when he appeared with 2 beers and no explanation. He didn't ask me what was wrong. He just sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed, and cracked open his can. We drank in silence, the city buzzing around us, and for the first time in months I didn't feel alone. I hated him for that, hated how easily he slipped past the defenses I had spent years constructing. He wasn't perfect, God. Far from it. He was messy, impulsive, always late, always talking too much. But he was also patient in a way that terrified me. Patient enough to wait out my coldness, my sarcasm, my tendency to pull away when things got too close. And that patience made me restless because it meant he saw through me. There were nights when I wanted to kiss him, when the air between us felt heavy with something unspoken. But every time, the memory of my past relationship rose up like a ghost, whispering, "Don't be a fool again. Don't trust someone who will only leave you." So I pushed him away. The first time I did it, I told him he was wasting his time with me. We were sitting in his beat-up car by Lake Michigan, the water shimmering under the streetlights. He had been talking about some dumb story from high school, laughing so hard tears gathered in his eyes. I cut him off mid-sentence. "Ethan, you should stop. Whatever this ice, it's not going anywhere." The way his laughter died hurt more than I expected. He stared at me for a long moment, his smile fading into something quieter, something wounded. "Why do you do that?" he asked softly. "Do what?" "Act like you don't care when I know damn well you do." I didn't answer. Couldn't. The truth was too dangerous. He didn't press further. He just nodded, started the car, and drove me home. That night, I lay awake wondering if I had finally pushed him away for good. But Ethan wasn't the kind of man who gave up easily. A week later, he showed up at my door with a box of donuts and that infuriating grin. "You gonna let me in? Or are you still pretending you don't like me?" It was both a question and a challenge, and I hated how much I wanted to let him win. Slowly, almost against my will, Ethan became a fixture in my life. We studied together, cooked disastrous meals in my tiny kitchen, argued about movies until midnight. He made fun of me for always drinking black coffee, and I mocked him for his obsession with bad reality TV. It was ordinary, almost boring, but within that ordinariness was something I had been missing for years: peace. Of course, peace never lasts. One night, after too much whiskey and too little sleep, The truth slipped out of me. We were sitting on my couch, a movie playing in the background, when I blurted, "I'm scared of you." Ethan blinked. That's not exactly what a guy wants to hear." "I mean," I said quickly, "I'm scared of what you make me feel, because I can't do this again, Ethan. I can't get broken like before." He didn't laugh. He didn't tease. He just reached for my hand, his touch steady, grounding. "Then don't think of it as starting over," he whispered. "Think of it as learning how to live again. With me." It should have sounded like a line from a cheesy romance novel. But the way he said it raw, unpolished, almost pleading made my chest ache. And for the first time, I let myself believe him. Ethan's words haunted me for days after. Learning how to live again. As if I had been merely existing, waiting for someone to remind me that love wasn't a battlefield I had to keep fighting on my own. But opening up to him wasn't a straight line. It was messy, jagged, full of nights where I wanted him close but pushed him away out of fear. And Ethan, patient as always, never forced me. He stayed even when it must have been easier to walk. The turning point came one rainy afternoon in November. Chicago rain has a way of swallowing everything: whole streets, footsteps, even thoughts. I had gotten a call from my ex. His voice slithered back into my ear like poison, smooth and familiar, saying he just wanted to talk. Against all reason, I agreed to meet him. We sat in the corner of a dim cafe, the air thick with coffee and regret. He looked different, older somehow, but the way he smiled was exactly the same, the smile that had once made me feel chosen, special. And then discarded. "I miss you," he said simply. My throat went dry. "I was stupid. You were the only one who ever really cared about me." The words were dangerous, laced with nostalgia and the promise of something familiar. For a second, I almost let myself believe them. Almost. And then Ethan's face flashed in my mind, his laughter in the car, the way he brought donuts to my door, the warmth in his voice when he said with me. I pushed back from the table, my chair screeching. "You don't get to say that," I told him, my voice trembling but firm. "You don't get to come back after breaking me and pretend like nothing happened. I loved you, and you threw it away." He stared at me, stunned. "So what, you're with someone else now?" "Yes," I said, though technically Ethan and I hadn't put a label on it. But the truth was there, undeniable. And I'm not making the same mistake twice. I left him sitting there, the rain pounding against the windows like an exclamation point. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the broken one. I felt free. When I walked into Ethan's apartment that night, soaked to the bone, he looked up from the couch with concern. "Jesus, did you swim here?" I laughed, the sound shaky but real. "I did something stupid. What else is new?" he teased, but his smile softened as he took in my expression. "You okay?" I nodded, stepping closer. "I saw him, my ex. He wanted me back." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent, waiting. "And I told him no," I continued. "I told him I already have someone better." Ethan blinked, as if he hadn't quite heard me. "You, what?" I swallowed hard, nerves buzzing in my veins. "I'm tired of being afraid, Ethan. Tired of pretending I don't care when the truth is I do. More than I should, maybe more than I know how to handle. But I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you." The room went quiet, except for the steady hum of the rain. Then Ethan stood, closing the space between us. His hand brushed against mine, tentative at first, then firm. "You're not going to lose me," he said softly. "I've been here all along." And before I could second-guess myself, before the old fears could rise again, I leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't perfect. Our teeth clashed, our breaths uneven, but none of it mattered. What mattered was the way he held me, grounding me, as if saying without words, "You're safe now." That night, wrapped in Ethan's arms, I realized something I should have known all along. Love isn't about never getting hurt. It's about finding someone who makes the risk worth it. But love stories don't end at the first kiss. They begin there. The weeks that followed were full of small discoveries. Ethan had a terrible habit of leaving socks everywhere, and I couldn't cook pasta without burning it. We argued about politics, about who got the last slice of pizza, about whether or not his music taste was objectively terrible. It was. But we also learned how to apologize, how to laugh in the middle of a fight, how to choose each other even when it wasn't easy. One evening in December, we drove out of the city to a quiet stretch of highway. Snow lined the fields, glowing under the moonlight. Ethan pulled over, claiming he wanted me to see something. He pointed upward. Stars. Haven't seen them in forever with all the city lights. I tilted my head back, and for a moment it felt like the world had expanded just for us. Stars scattered across the sky, infinite and fragile, reminding me how small and temporary our lives were, and yet, how big love could feel in the middle of it all. Beautiful, huh? Ethan murmured. I glanced at him, his profile illuminated by the moon, and realized he wasn't talking about the stars. Without thinking, I whispered, I love you. His head snapped toward me, eyes wide. Say that again. I love you, I repeated, my chest tightening with both fear and relief. Ethan grinned so wide it was almost ridiculous. Finally. Do you know how long I've been waiting to hear that? Probably not as long as I've been waiting to say it, I admitted. He laughed, leaned in, and kissed me again, the kind of kiss that tasted like promise. Looking back now, I understand why I had to go through the heartbreak first. If I hadn't been broken, I might never have learned what it means to heal. If I hadn't lost faith in love, I might never have realized how precious it is when it finally comes back to you. Ethan wasn't my savior. He didn't fix me, but he stood beside me while I learned how to fix myself, and in doing so, he became my home. And maybe that's the point of love, not to erase the scars, but to remind us that we're more than the pain that made them. So yes, he once made me lose faith in love. But he also became the only one patient enough to teach me how to open my heart again. And this time, I'm not letting go. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.